So Ari, how can you protect yourself from the cost of long-term care, which is currently $12,300 a month?
Yeah, and that's a shared room, by the way. That's not your own room. That's not a spa.
Wow.
Yeah, so long-term care is it's a hard nut to crack. There's a couple of different ways, right? There's if you can pay it out of pocket. God bless you.
Love you.
You can certainly purchase long-term care insurance if you can afford it and if you can qualify for it and all the rest of that. We do a lot of work with that, and it can be very helpful. I have it. I encourage my parents to have it. And again, I'm younger than folks usually are when they get it, and it's because I work in this industry, and I know those numbers. Yeah. We talked, at times about Medicaid asset protection. Medicaid in Virginia, it's really kind of an incredible program that can provide long-term care support even if you're still living in your home or in a nursing home. And when we are looking at that, we can actually plan ahead in order to preserve certain of the assets, including the home, so that, if push comes to shove, if a person needs to qualify for care, the home at the very least can be protected and it doesn't have to be spent all the way down. So Medicaid has these two very interesting, if you're a nerd like me, financial rules where, number one, sounds very straightforward. If you're applying for Medicaid, you can only have $2,000 in assets, right? Sounds very straightforward.
And if you're handicapped.
Yeah, certain, right. So for health insurance, Medicaid, absolutely. Yeah. Generally when we're talking about long-term care, we're talking about 65 years old and older. It's what's called aged, blind, or disabled coverage. But
do the same things count if you are younger than that?
So Medicaid expansion did this incredible thing where if you're under 65, you can actually qualify for Medicaid and they don't care about your assets.
Okay.
Unless there's a disability, and we could spend hours talking about this, and I'd have to read a lot first because it's really complicated. Long-term care for someone who is disabled, as Medicaid manual calls it, still has that asset cap, even if you're under 65. So so you're absolutely right, and it's called ABD, aged, blind, or disabled, is kind of what they call the Medicaid covered group that we're talking about when we're talking long-term.
Long-term.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, number one, you can only have $2,000, but you can't just throw all your money in the street and then show up the next day and say, "I've got $2,000, let's go."
What about giving it to your family?
Hey, yeah, sure, you could do that, but what if you need it back? What if you need it to care for? And also, if you give it to your family, Medicaid says, well, that's the same as just throwing it all away.
Gotcha.
So they say you can't make gifts, you can't put it in trust, you can't put it all into a valueless life insurance policy in the 5 years before applying.
5 years.
Right, so this is called the look back period. So there's a question that says, in the last 60 months, which is 5 years, have you basically transferred assets not for value? They call it an uncompensated transfer. So to a planner, that means, well, what about 6 years ago? So what we do in our planning is we can put the home, certain types of non-retirement investments, so not IRAs or 401ks, but other types of investments, cash, real estate, from wherever, into a certain type of trust. It's designed for Medicaid asset protection. Sometimes you'll see it called a Medicaid asset protection trust. There's all different ways of describing it. And if you do the planning and you put the assets in these types of trusts, with the thought that it's going to be at least 5 years before you needed to apply for care, then those assets can be fully protected from Medicaid. Right. Easy in our 40s to say, yes, I'll definitely do that. Right? Definitely something to think about.